Hello there, Mrs. and Z's Frenzies. I just wanted to take a moment to make a video for the homework this week. There is a multiplication problem on there with a different type of strategy. So the reason we're choosing to do that is because it helps create number sense and it helps students break numbers apart by place value. And it creates easier numbers for students to work with and add together. So that is our reasoning behind it, as well as the long division. Another thing with long division is steps can be left out, like bringing down and things like that. So those strategies help kids not miss those steps, like carrying over in multiplication. So they can do it the traditional way, absolutely fine. This is just a strategy that we have tried using in class, and that's just what happens to be on the homework. So I was just going to demonstrate the example problem here. So it has the example kind of laid out for you, but I'll go ahead and do it in action so you can see that as well. So the problem is 27 times 13. So we have the box, and the box is split into 4 sections because this is a 2-digit number and this is a 2-digit number. So we have the ones place value and the tens place value, and we want to put the value or worth of that number above each box. So 7 is worth 7, and the 2 in 27 is actually has a value of 20. And with 13, well, the ones number is worth 3 and the number in the tens place value is 10. So now, just like you would if you were reading like a line plot graph, you go from this number to this number, and where they meet is where you write your product of the multiplication problem. So 20 and 10. What I tell students to do is look at the first numbers and do 2 times 1, which is 2. And then since there's 2 zeros, you put 2 zeros next to that first number, and then you have the product of 20 and 10. So here, 7 and 10, most students are going to know that that's 70, but still 7 and putting the 0. Okay, 3 and 20 is 60, and 3 and 7 is 21. So now we have all those boxes filled out and we're ready to add together. So what I do is I just make sure all my place values are lined up correctly. And then that gets me my product of 351. And that is how that strategy looks. Now, if it's a 3-digit number, you have 3 sections. If it's a 1-digit number, then you would have, or 2 by 1, you'd have 2 and then just 1. But these are all 2 by 2, I believe, so there shouldn't be an issue with using this example. Now, as far as the long division strategy that students may know, I'm going to do this problem here on the homework, 7,261 divided by 5. So I'm going to write that up top here. Okay, and the first question I'm going to ask myself is 5 multiplied by what number can get me closest to 7,261? So we teach kids to look for easy numbers. So tens, hundreds, thousands, anything that you can multiply by 1 and just put a bunch of zeros by to make your number smaller and easier to work with. So immediately I noticed that 5 is less than 7. So 5 can go into 7,000 1,000 times. So that's the number I'm going to choose to start with. Students might be able to think of a more efficient number, and so good for them, but I'm going to model this way. So that means I subtract 5,000, which leaves me with 2,261. So then the process just repeats itself. 5 can go into 2,261 how many times, or 5 multiplied by what number gets me the product closest to 2,261. So now we notice that 5 is greater than 2, so we're going to move over to the next place value and see if 22 has a factor, that if 5 has a factor when multiplied that can get me close to 22. And so we know that 4 is close to 22, and since there is 2 place values left. I'm going to put 2 zeros. So 5 times 4 is 20. And what I tell students to do is take the amount of zeros you have and put them here. And then put the other piece of the number. So you are making sure that you're lining up the place values correctly. So then that leaves us with 261. Same thing. 5 times what number gets us closest to not 2 but 26? Well, that's 5. So I'm putting that in the tens place value because it's the whole number 25. So I'm putting that 5 in the tens where the 6 is. Then there's 1 space left, so that's a 0. I'm going to put that 0 down here now, and then 5 times 5 is 25, leaving me with 11. And 5 times what number gets me closest to 11? Well, we know that that is 2. Leaving me with 1. 1 is less than 5, so there's no number that when multiplied by 5 gets me a product of 1 or close to 1. So that means I'm finished. This is going to be a remainder. So I'm going to add all these up. 2, 5, 4, 1. So I'd want to leave space up here to write, but I didn't really, so I'm just going to write it down here with a remainder of 1. And it's pre-written for them, so they shouldn't have an issue. So the quotient of that problem is 1,452 with a remainder of 1. Hope this helps. Have a good night.